If you're looking into buying cheap wireless music gear, that can be a wireless microphone, a wireless for guitar, bass, or instruments, or wireless in-ear monitors, there are just 3 things that I want you to keep in mind if you plan to buy or use these. First of all, the most important thing that I want you to remember is that you cannot use a ton of cheap wireless all at once. It's really addicting once you get rid of that cable and the freedom that you have and the nice clean stage that you have. I ran into that problem as well when I first started using wireless, and I started to want to use a bunch of wireless. As a general rule, the more wireless that you use on stage at once, the more you need to spend to get the higher end wireless. Cheaper wireless have less wireless channels to choose from, and expensive or more higher end professional wireless have more channels and frequencies to choose from. This one only has 10 channels. This wireless XLR system only has 4 channels. This one that I've reviewed only has like 16 channels. And this wireless in-ear monitor system has 1 channel. All of that versus my high-end Shure SLX-D system that I use that has hundreds of channels to choose from and thousands of different individual frequencies that you can choose from. With the cheaper stuff, you cannot use a bunch of them all at once. What's the magic number? It all depends on the environment that you're playing in. Sometimes you could use up to 6 of them. Other times you won't be able to use 2 of them. If you have a 7-piece band and you're trying to get everyone on in-ear monitors and on wireless microphones, these are not the systems to look for. Just in general, the more wireless that you use on stage, the more you're going to have to spend to get the higher end stuff. The second thing to keep in mind is that the cheaper stuff, for the most part, works with most people's setups. Sometimes these cheaper wireless do not work with like active pickups or a certain type of microphone or a certain type of mixer for in-ear monitors I found. If you see my review that I did on the Swift audio one, this is one of my favorite cheap ones that I use. If you look in the comment section, there's people who say it works great with their guitar with active pickups, and then there's also people saying it didn't work with their guitar with active pickups. I'm not really sure what it is. With wireless XLR transmitters as well, some people say it works great, other people say it'll give them a little bit of hiss. This one, the wireless in-ear monitor system by NUX, this is the biggest mystery to me. I've now let 7 musicians use this system. Literally every single time this has happened, they give it back to me and they say thank you, and they say, how much is that thing? I want to get one. Every single time. But in the comment section on that one, it's about 50-50. Some people say it works great. Other people will say that it's noisy or it distorts easily. My best advice to you is if you get it, try it out immediately with your setup. If you hear distortion or it's not working with your setup, return it. That's the best advice that I can give you for that. Just because it doesn't work with your setup doesn't mean that the product is junk. It just means that it's not going to work with your setup. Try it. If it doesn't work, return it and try another one. And the third thing that I want you to keep in mind is that tone. Some people will say that it sounds a little bit brighter or a little bit darker. That doesn't mean that it sounds bad. It's all very usable in my opinion, because as long as I get a usable tone, I don't care if one sounds slightly brighter than the other one. Tone is all subjective. As long as you get a usable tone, that's what's important. However, what I will say is that if you are a tone purist, you want 100% purest tone, you only use Mugami cables, then I personally wouldn't recommend shopping in the cheap department. And honestly, to be fair, that's kind of on you. If you're shopping for a wireless system and you see one for $50 for your guitar, I don't really know if you have the right to complain of, oh, there's a little bit of a drop in the 1K. Look into a nice digital wireless system from Shure or Sennheiser. But if you fall into the camp of, I'd rather save money, then these are worth looking into. I'm a full-time musician. This is what I do for a living, and I don't consider myself a tone purist at all. As long as I have a usable tone, that's what I care about. Just a couple of tips. With the cheap stuff, because these are so cheap, I do recommend getting 2 of the cheap wireless systems, get them on 2 separate frequency ranges. So for example, this Swift audio one that I like, this one transmits between 902 to 928 megahertz. And then there's this one by Joya, which I'm actually about to release a video on, but this one transmits on 5.8 gigahertz. So if you show up to a show and this one isn't working for you, it doesn't make sense to just switch to another one on 900 megahertz. So switch to one on 5.8 gigahertz and it's more likely to work. I will also have a bunch of different recommendations down below in the description if you want to check out my recommendations for cheap and budget-friendly wireless. And the other thing to keep in mind is that line of sight from the transmitter to the receiver is always the best. If you plug this system into a microphone and then you plug this into a rack that's way behind your drummer or something like that, and there's not a direct line of sight from the transmitter to the receiver, that's a good way to increase the chances of you to get dropouts. Some people will hear stuff like this and they'll be like, well, I'm just going to stick to a cable. Well, I mean, I'll remind you that cables go bad all the time. How many times have you seen a guitar player with a 30 pedal board and they're trying to figure out which one patch cable has gone bad on them? As long as you understand the general idea of the things that we went over in this video, you can use these systems. Like I said, I still use these systems all the time. There's a right and a wrong place to use these. If you are in the right place to use these, there are links down below to the products that I recommend and that I personally use. So I hope this helped you guys out. If you guys did find this video helpful, do me a favor and hit the thumbs up button to feed the YouTube algorithm gods. If you want to find out more details about this and you want to compare the cheap stuff with the higher end stuff, I do have a whole wireless buying guide where I go into a lot more detail. And if you are interested in going a little bit more nerdy and you want to find out the difference between analog and digital wireless gear, I also have a video going over that. So you can check out both of those videos by clicking the links on your screen now. Thank you guys again for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at ScottYoleMusic. Leave your comments down below of your experience with cheap wireless music gear. Thank you guys again for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.